What am I thinking about today that's funny in fundraising?
Could it be events related?
Possibly. Events are hilarious. No, I'm thinking more about communications.
Oh, that's funny in itself.
And communications is this big term.
Have you ever met a communicator that can't communicate?
Oh, so many times. Anyway, case statements.
Oh,
Case statements are
do you
funny.
carry them around in a little silver briefcase, like attached to your wrist with a handcuff, like the codes or something?
I just like the word attaché.
Oh, an attaché.
Attaché, like an attaché case. It's a fun word. Anyway, words are fun. Words are funny. Attaché is a funny word. No, I'm thinking about case statement and communications and how we use them and how they get developed. Right. So, do you have time for a story?
I love your stories.
Do you have time for a story? Hi, come to a podcast about stories, and then do you have time for a story?
Well, I mean, maybe I'm not in the mood.
Yeah, fair. Then it's going to be a shorter podcast. Thanks, folks.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yep, that was great. All right. No, I want to hear your story.
So, case. Now, I got into fundraising because I can write. Right. I mean, my very first job as a fundraiser was writing grants.
I am still working on the Hooked on Phonics series, so tell me more.
So I thought, oh, this is, great career. I can, anyway, that was.
I too started as a grant writer
30 some years ago.
And then I heard the word triplicate.
Do you remember grants and carbon copies?
Well, I did federal once and I'll never do that again.
Oh,
so fundraising, not funny.
Fundraising, not funny.
funny.
I have done many federal grants, state pass-through grants. Yeah. That's a whole other.
We should have a whole episode.
We should have a
on
whole discussion
grant applications and
word
count.
I think we could do a whole 30 minutes just on word counts. Exactly.
Oh God.
Describe your programs in 10 words or less.
It'd be good.
Anyway, case statements.
We need money.
Now, when I say case statement, what
Right.
I'm talking about is sort of the master document that describes the case for support. Why we're doing what we do.
Why now?
How we do it. Why now?
Why us?
Why us?
There's in the United States alone, over 2 million nonprofits.
Right. So what differentiates us? Right.
It ain't your mission statement, baby.
Are we going to do an episode on mission and vision statements? Okay.
We are.
Yeah, I thought we would. All right.
Yeah.
So case statements, and some organizations use them, for a particular campaign or a particular appeal, right? Others use a case statement as to describe the whole organization, right?
Well, in higher ed and healthcare, big organizations, campaign case statements,
right? Campaign case statements.
They pay people hundreds.
Oh yeah.
Of thousands.
Oh yeah. And they are huge documents, and especially for large institutions.
They used to be. And we used to print them. And then at the end of the campaign, it was like we would burn them in effigy because there'd be 3,000 of them still left over of these 30-page booklets.
I am convinced that in my career spanning the continental United States that I have left, and there still are boxes of old case statements littered throughout the country in storage rooms that nobody
kills me.
Remembers.
Kills me. I feel bad for the trees. I also feel bad for the people who wrote the case statements. And
that'd be me. I
also feel bad because at a university, especially, a dean will leave and then they have to throw out the whole box.
Yep.
So you kind of need to nail your dean to the wall or never mind.
Well,
so tell me.
My answer to that is create evergreen statements that you can.
Story. I need your story.
Yes. So, I love writing case statements. I think they are an incredibly valuable exercise, not just for the campaign itself, but for the organization to go through, right, and really nail down what is. And sometimes they're painful, and you dig into it. And so there was one that I have heard of this story, and they spent a good amount of time writing their overall organizational case statement, really nailing down their why, really describing their programs in a fundraising way, right?
We need money for this.
Right. And this organization in particular was about to embark on investing in some major gift strategies and increasing levels of donors.
Strategery.
Yeah, right. So this thing, interviewed, again, this is third hand, so interviewed program delivery people, interviewed beneficiaries. I mean, this was it was gorgeous, and it was really written and developed into a very fundraising focused emotional
all that you
statement.
language.
Yeah, exactly.
And those hope and inspirational
Hope
words
and inspiration and
feelings.
And beautiful pictures of, the people that they serve. And
people.
Yeah.
Not buildings.
Not just buildings, right? And told stories of the outcomes that they've had and the outcomes they need to have because the problem was so big. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous case statement. And so this organization also received a grant, going back to grants. And as part of the grant, they were gifted through this organization a partnership with a public relations firm.
Oh, bless.
A very good public relations firm. So
a PR firm, not a fundraising.
No. PR.
Okay.
Public relations, right?
Very
reputable, very good at what they do. Okay. I love my colleagues in public relations. They do brilliant work. It's not something I know how to do well or can do, right? Very specific skill set. And as part of this grant, it was kind of this packaged thing through a large national grant. And as part of this, the PR firm, as part of their work with their gift of work to this nonprofit, for them as part of this award, it would work with them on a prospectus. Prospectus.
You mean a fancy word for a case for support?
Pretty much.
Oh, but we already had that. Did they read it?
Well,
Booked on Phonics.
They rewrote it. Well, they didn't actually, because we're going to work with this, and this is, a relatively large, over $1 million budget organization. Okay. So not small by any stretch of the imagination. But this PR firm comes in and says, essentially, we're going to redo everything for you because we're a PR firm and we know how to tell you how to do this, right? Didn't even look at any previous materials. Didn't even look because we're going to toss it all out, despite the fact that we had just done it.
But wait.
Yes.
How many gifts has that firm ever gotten?
Oh, they've worked with, as part of this grant, they've worked with hundreds of nonprofits across the country, and they've seen tremendous results. Tremendous results. Mm-hmm. So they came in and they rewrote it, and it's now 26 pages.
I'm sorry, what?
26 pages, double-spaced, glossy.
Is it sans?
No, it's not double-spaced. I'm sorry, single-spaced.
Is it sans serif?
It is sans serif.
People really love a sans serif.
It is sans serif in print, despite the fact that our eyes view serif in print better, but whatever. And so chock full of program language.
I don't understand.
So the point here is...
Not motivational, not fundraising, not emotional, not...
Not, hey, Lynn.
Yes.
Did you know that you could change the life of a college student in this community?
I did not know that.
Right. No, not that. No, it's, 3 pages on this one particular program that, yeah. So now.
Oh, sorry.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, because there's a whole lot of questions that this brings up for me. Number one, what I am curious about is how many of us in this, because I guarantee you there are people listening right now that are banging their heads on the desk or the steering wheel going, oh my gosh, I thought it was just me, right? Because you've lived this, haven't you? When a development committee steps in and rewrites,
my favorite is when I've been paid as a consultant to write something, and then somebody who's not a subject matter expert in that area then rewrites what they paid. I mean, I still get paid, but it's soulless and it hurts. And it gives me the ouchies.
I don't like this word. Okay, well, you're a physician.
Yes.
I don't tell you how to operate on a heart. I don't like that suture
it's fundraising.
style.
Anybody can do that.
Right. See, this is the thing, right? Exactly.
So I once watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
So I do know the pneumothorax and the thoracotomy.
Isn't that a Dr. Seuss book?
No, that's the thorax.
Right.
The thoracotomy and all that stuff. But I was watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy, and a revered surgeon came in, and they went to operate on him, and he said, no, use this kind of thread to sew me up. But the doctor who was in training really wanted to use a certain kind of thread. But the old wise surgeon was like, no, you have to use this on me. Well, they used it, and come to find out he was allergic to it, and the young doctor was right all along.
Okay.
And they had to go back in and re-sew everything and do the googly noises that they do in surgery. So I'm going to leave that there while we get a snack.
This makes me tired.
Nothing
so
like talking about insides of the body during surgery and a snack.
Lynn,
we're back.
How was your snack?
Delicious.
Did you go for the red vines?
I had those little strawberry candies with the juice inside because it felt like that was what I don't know. But anyway, all this to say, so we're here and we have non-fundraising professionals telling us how to do our fundraising work.
Now, in this case, right, this is a hired external firm that does have expertise in a particular area versus, and I'm sure we've all had it. I don't know. Oh goodness. I forgot about this until just now. I worked at one organization years and years ago, where the executive director didn't trust her own judgment on language. So she would go home and share any written materials that she had to approve with her husband, who was a grammar teacher, a professor. And he would like grade the stuff and bring it back, and she'd go make these edits. And you're like,
did he diagram her sentences?
Probably.
I feel like that's what they probably do for fun at night.
You know, and I'm sitting there going,
where's the predicate?
Right, exactly. I'm like, no, this is a sentence fragment for a reason. Anyway. So PR firm, right? I mean, they have certain expertise, et cetera. They get.
But the emotion is what I'm looking for.
The emotion is what we're looking for.
The goosebumps, the chicken skin. Come on.
And I think the reason I bring this up, and because it is funny, because number one, I am willing to bet, as I said, we have a number of our colleagues out there right now that are going, oh, I've lived this, I get this, right? I want to encourage our friends and colleagues in the space to go, no, you're the expert, right?
What? Who, me?
Right, exactly.
But I get paid 10 pence and some leftover cheese from an event. Hummus. How can I be an expert? Right?
Right.
Based on my compensation, I'm saying that's a no.
But how can we encourage our colleagues that when we know our stuff, right? Yeah. Especially when it comes to communications.
Yeah. Well,
how do we?
Fundraising is 90% emotional, 10% rational.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to be really careful about allowing people to institutionalize our communications.
That's right.
Allowing them to strip out all the good stuff.
Yep.
And I think the other thing, I would say this is also a lesson in sheer internal communication. So if my team had worked so hard on coming up with this case statement, if my team had done all this work previously, why are we applying for a grant to redo it?
Well, okay, so let me be clear. It's a good point. It's a very good point that it was included in the grant with other things. So there was a whole lot of other stuff plus some money that came in with the grant, and it just included that PR component.
Did we have to do it? I guess so, because it's part of the grant.
Well, see, so you make a very good...
I'd be talking to some people about that before I did it.
You make a very, very good distinction here because, right, somebody thought, hey, this grant is a really great idea. And that's the question. This whole thing, just because it's got a dollar amount attached to it, do we need all of these other things that come with it? Or are we just focused on we're going to get those dollars and those other things will take care of themselves?
And it's funny because, our podcast is called Fundraising is Funny. So we have to say it's funny because...
At least once a minute.
At least. It's funny because we often don't trust our gut. Right. And our gut's usually right about some of these things. And we second guess ourselves. And, I understand it's hard, but I think we also need to find a little bit of gumption.
I agree.
And I haven't seen anybody recently, in the last week or so, get fired for saying, hey, can we discuss this? I haven't seen that this week. I mean, not quite sure about weeks previous, but... we have to overcome some of our fear. We live in a very fearful way sometimes at nonprofits. It's why we don't make progress the way for-profits do.
Well, yeah. So a couple of years ago, and we can find this information, and I'm sure we can link to it somewhere.
Fundraisingisfunny.com.
Fundraisingisfunny.com. A couple of years ago, AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals, did some intense study on fundraising as a profession, and the academics that study professions.
Ooh.
Helped AFP engaged in this study and essentially said fundraising is a teenaged profession. So we haven't hit the level of maturity that others have, and I think sometimes we get kind of second city syndrome.
Right, we're totally 20-year-olds driving around our mom's car right now.
And I've heard the stories of you driving around your family's car, and that's a whole other...
No comment about the grocery getter. There's nothing that says sexy like a Ford Escort station wagon.
But I think you're exactly right? Get some gumption, et cetera. The other thing, where I go to is true cost accounting.
What? That sounds fancy.
I know, doesn't it? How much staff time was spent writing the first case statement?
Right.
And then how much did that staff time have to redo for the quote unquote prospectus?
I know
because they interviewed all the staff, et cetera. So somebody somewhere was looking at that grant going, ooh, big dollars. Exactly. But not just in expenses paid, but in opportunity cost and staff time.
And you did all that, and you didn't video them either, and it's 2023, and we won't talk about why we can't do video or what's wrong with us about video. But all that to say, too, we had already done those interviews, so why didn't we use the collateral we had from the previous round of interviews? Either way, I don't want to throw stones. It's not about throwing stones at the organization. It's about our profession and thinking through what are the funny tales that can teach us lessons? So Clay, I'm going to, we always at the end of this do two things. Number one, something that people can share. So we're going to talk to you about that in just a second. But Clay, what's the punchline here? What is the funny, not so funny point of this episode of our podcast series surrounding attaché statements? I'll have to tell y'all sometime about the time I got fancy with my name and it immediately got rejected by my mother, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But
cute little accent on
no comment.
Okay.
We're not going there because I'm going to need time. But so what is the punchline, Clay?
To me, it is know your stuff. If you know you're a good writer, if you have studied, you have failed, you have tested, right? You have followed the good advice, you know what you're doing, then I want to encourage you to know your stuff and stand your ground.
Have some gumption.
Right?
Yeah. And also, don't ever forget that emotion rules the day when it comes to fundraising. 100%. And that when people are trying to tell you, well, we need to put in this jargon or talk about transformational blah, 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 it's really about telling a story. One donor, one beneficiary at a time. And if we can do that in an ethical way, if we can do that in a way that helps move our mission forward, then the case statement will be very successful. I think the punchline I also would add to this is I've never ever had one single document be the only reason why a donor gave a 6, 7, 8 figure gift or not gave a 6, 7, 8 figure gift. So a lot of the times we put importance on documents like that, and it's just one. Remember, we're building a relationship.
Right.
So it's just one thing. And a well-written case is very important, but at the same time, it is not the end-all, be-all of donor communications with that one donor.
That's exactly right.
So we always do a shout out to our audience. We want you to be involved. And so we want to ask you to share stories of when you've had your work overworked. Maybe it's by a fundraising expert. Maybe it's by a board member. What is it? What have you had where you're like, yeah, I feel really good about this. And then somebody came in the side door and you were like, wait, what just happened here?
Right. What?
Who are you? First of all, you took my parking spot. And as a consultant, well, it's the worst because you always are taking somebody's parking spot in the morning and you know it. That's why I get dropped off by Uber. That way my rental car isn't in Becky's parking spot, But man, you took my parking spot and now you're messing with my job. So
Let's hear those funny stories, those frustrating stories, those times when you know that appeal or that case or whatever would have been great if they could have just left it alone.
Vent to us at fundraisingisfunny.com. And my favorite ones are always, and we'll probably cover this in another podcast, is when our board members think they are professional fundraisers and are like, I had a thought. I'm like, hold that thought. Just hold it.
I know how to answer that one, but we'll save that for
a board member podcast, maybe. Well, it's been great to hear that story, Clay. Thanks for sharing.
But of course.
I'm hoping all of you can get something out of today's episode, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.